On the WQAD 8 Plus app, and welcome here to Ask Andrew Live, but I guess it's more of Ask Peter here today. It's brought to you by our good friends at Veterans Choice. We got a whole lot to talk about here today, and we're going to talk about maybe the forecast. I know we got pretty picture perfect weather coming right in the days ahead, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the hurricanes. I know everyone loves talking about the hurricanes, studying them, kind of looking at them and their kind of forecast. So we'll talk about some hurricanes, and there's some more developments also out in the Atlantic as well that we'll talk about here. And then we'll answer any of your questions. Great way to do that is to text us. If you want to know that number, it's 309-304. You can kind of see it right there. We go, right there. 309-304-0888. 888. It's really easy to remember, right? We're channel 8 here. So again, that number, 309-304-0888. And keep the questions weather related, nothing weird. As we like to say, don't ask anything that you wouldn't want my mom to be asked, right? So let's keep it weather related here, and we'll be talking about that as we continue throughout the next 30 minutes here. Let's start with just kind of today's forecast, right? I know we were talking about the cooler temperatures, and when are we going to get that big cool down that we've been looking for over the past few days? Well, we're going to start here with kind of just the current temperatures right now. And yeah, really not going to be seeing a whole lot going on there. You are noticing maybe some of those little showers trying to creep their way out towards Princeton, where we're seeing that cloud cover, but most of us should stay dry till maybe right around noon. We are tracking a little weak disturbance. That's going to try and move through the area here this afternoon. Taking a look at highs across right around, I'd say, give or take 82 to 83 degrees for many of us here today. 82 is that forecast high here in the Quad Cities. Many of us right around those low 80s. A great break, really, from all that heat and humidity that we've been seeing here over the past few days. Yeah, it's still going to be humid today. Maybe feels like right around the mid 80s to maybe up to 88 degrees at best, but still much better than the trend we've seen over the past few days. Let's put our future track into motion here and kind of track, well, when are we going to be seeing these storms develop later? And we're going to be using our in-house model here, again, our trusty in-house model we love so much. As we get towards right around lunchtime here in the metro, it is showing that potential for maybe some of these little pop-up showers to make their way through the area. Then as we get later in the day, notice they move kind of slowly, but further to the south out near, say, Monmouth, near Galesburg. Our friends down there near Roseville, that's where we're having a little bit more storm energy. So that's where we could be seeing maybe those little flashes of lightning. Not a lot, but maybe could be something we're looking at here today, and maybe an isolated funnel cloud not expected to make their way towards the ground, but we can't rule out maybe a quick little funnel making its way down. Overnight tonight, we'll quiet up though and see a lot of partly cloudy sky. 61 degrees that overnight low. As we get into your Thursday, guess what? More sunshine and more comfortable temperatures. Humidity is going to trend in the right direction here as we end the week. As we look at the live radar, not a whole lot going on there right now. We can look out towards, our friends out in Bureau County, Princeton, Peru area, maybe a quick little passing shower here, but that's really all we're seeing. You can notice barely even a contour on there, that darker blue. That's really all we're looking at for rainfall, and not a whole lot there. And further to the north, we've quieted up now as well. Our big story over the next few days is going to be high pressure. We have a very strong area of high pressure situated kind of over Minnesota here right now. That's going to slowly track its way further to the east and keep us nice and quiet here. Then we're going to be talking about this all the way up into Alaska. Yeah, well, why are we talking about Alaska, right? A little bit weird. Well, a strong cold front with that air behind it is going to make its way towards here as we get late Friday into your Saturday, maybe even closer to Sunday now. But when you look at the forecast eyes, yeah, it's a bit cooler on your Saturday. Still 82, but it's going to be definitely drier. It's going to be portions of the area maybe noticing the impacts of that cold front. But look, as that cold front moves through into Sunday, 74 degrees is going to be your forecast high. And no, that's not a mistake, right? Normally in August, we expect those highs right around maybe 80 to maybe even near 78 for a cooler day. Yeah, we're looking right around 74 degrees as we get towards your Sunday. So your weekend forecast, I mean, really, you couldn't ask for a better weekend here. 82 on your Saturday, Sunday, 74 degrees, mostly sunny skies. It's going to be a pretty picture-perfect weekend. I put weekends best on Sunday just because it's going to be a little bit more refreshing in my mind, at least you could say, to see a mid-70 degree temperature, but pick your poison, really, both days. You can't really ask for better conditions. Then as we look at the 8-day tracker, this is where it gets real fun. If you're excited about that Sunday, I think you're going to be excited here about the rest of this forecast. Take a look at that. 74, 72, 74, 76 in the 14-day tracker. Again, I mean, it's a little bit surprising, right? After all this heat and humidity, we felt to see this. Puts a smile on my face. I know many people are excited, and what's great too is I know really next week we're really getting into that last week of practice before high school football season starts. So I bet the players are going to be loving that too, because you really got to make sure you get those plays memorized, make sure your tackling's all set for those defensive players. So we're excited about that next week here as well. And we can throw out the 14-day too. Why not? Let's see how long this trend continues after your Thursday and really doesn't change. I mean, Friday, yeah, 78 degrees, a little bit warmer, but even into the end of the month, even to the start of September, we're looking just about or below average. Here's our average high for this time of year, 84 degrees, and almost every single day for the rest of the forecast doesn't really look to break that. Again, this is just a trend in the extended one, but definitely something we can be looking forward to here. And I do want to talk about something else, and that's a little bit more fun maybe when it comes to actual storms, right? Because we love to talk about the weather here, and we're going to talk about the tropics. So let me pull up these graphics for you. Again, we have been talking a pretty good amount here about the tropics over the last few days because of the development that we're seeing with Aaron. Yeah, that's currently off the coast of the United States. Again, it's not going to be making landfall. It's going to hook its way further to the north and to the east, but you can notice some thunderstorm activity on the outer bands here of this hurricane. We are going to be seeing rising tides in portions in North Carolina, really the outer banks. We're already seeing some warnings out there, very strong rip tides. We are seeing up along the beach. Now they have those houses on the stilts on the beach. Those are already partially, I guess you could say, underwater with those stilts. They're seeing that rising water as we typically expect, right? A little bit of surge, storm surge, you could say, with a hurricane, even on the coast of the Carolinas. Currently, right now, it is a Category 2 hurricane. So let's look at some of that. Wind speeds, 100 miles per hour here. Winds coming in out of the north-northwest, or I guess a movement coming in out of the north-northwest at 13 miles per hour. So notice that's going to be kind of moving, you could say a little bit like this here, but then it's going to hook its way back up. There's an area of high pressure that's going to cause the steering winds to kind of hook it back here towards the ocean. And pressure, it's definitely low, 948. But remember last hurricane season, I remember talking about it on air. We saw a hurricane drop into the 800s in terms of pressure, one of the lowest, deepest areas of pressure we've almost ever seen recorded last summer. So good news is, yeah, it is going to be impacting the coast, but it's not going to be making landfall. Just kind of the outer bands of it and the rising tides is what we're going to be looking at there. Let's take a look at the hurricane path here of this as it continues to make its way towards the ocean. There's that north-northwest turn at first, but then it's going to quickly turn back again because we have a Bermuda high set up here. So imagine an area of, oh, let me see if I can add this on here with my palettes here. If not, it's not going to be the end of the world, but, oh, I'll draw it. Here we go. Give me 1 second here. What am I saying? Let's draw this out. So right here, we kind of have this area of high pressure, a Bermuda high, and that's kind of a steering wind that you typically see. And you know, with high pressures, we have that clockwise motion. So the winds are going to go like this, and as you can see, the steering winds from that high pressure are pushing it back out into the Atlantic, avoiding the coast. This is typical we see at this time of year, the Bermuda highs. That's why a lot of the times when these hurricanes kind of do get towards the coast, they get slingshotted back a little bit because the steering winds of the high pressure, that's the kind of dominant system that we see over the Atlantic at this time of year, hooks it back out into the ocean. So that's good news. We like to see this, but this isn't the only hurricane that we're actually keeping an eye on when we're tracking the tropics right now. Let's take a look at this one. 10% chance of development next 2 days, but it's the next 7 days, a 60% chance of development. It's moving very much in a similar path to what we are seeing with Aaron right now. Here's the low right there. It's going to move into a lot warmer waters as it makes its way here towards the Virgin Islands, up towards portions of Dominican Republic and Cuba, looking like it's going to develop further away from it and kind of up towards Bermuda like we're seeing here with Aaron. But that's something we'll be watching. And 60% chance over the next 7 days. It's going to be a little bit more of a gradual climb, unlike Aaron, where we saw that climb from pretty much a tropical storm to a Cat 5 in a matter of a day or two. So that's a really significant development we saw there. But this other one, we're not too concerned about. Here's this area of low pressure all the way out near the coast of Africa. You can see it's already kind of starting to develop. Notice how it says the 7 days, 40% chance for the 2 days. It's really within the next 2 days where this low is going to be developing here. Not too much of a significant chance per se with that one to continue moving on. It is going to be meeting a little bit of some cooler water. So let's look at those Atlantic Ocean temperatures here. Here's this area of low pressure. This is the potential one we're watching with the 60% chance of development over the next couple of days, moving towards, portions of San Juan, maybe near the DR and Cuba as well. So there's that low, and look at the coloring we're seeing here. Notice that warmer coloring. It's moving into warmer waters, which helps intensify these storms. When you have storm energy, right? Think about storm energy. We talk about warmer temperatures leading to stronger storms. And that's exactly what this low is going to do. It's going to move into warmer oceans, which is going to allow it to develop faster and last longer. That's why that path was different than, say, this one that we're going to take a look at over here. This low off the coast of Africa, notice the water's in front of it, a lot cooler here. Because of those cooler temperatures, it's not going to be having as much strength, you could say, to really develop here over the next couple of days. So that's what we're watching out in the tropics right now. Definitely going to be interesting to see, not maybe so much with this one, but with this one. What goes on here? There's already some kind of unstable air that's kind of left over there from Aaron. So it'll be interesting to see how that low develops. And there's one more thing I do want to talk about here. And James was talking to me about this yesterday, and James was joking it's the best time of year. I don't know if I'd agree that this is the best season of the year. I actually would say maybe the opposite. I do not like allergy season, right? But I want to update you on this. Look like I got to move that 115 over, but the ragweed count is high today. We got it from our great friend, Dr. Mark Blazer, the allergist. And yeah, ragweed count is a lot higher today, 115. So if you're sensitive to allergies, especially that ragweed, of course, maybe make sure to take your allergy pills that you typically take every day, maybe your Benadryl or something at night, because we are definitely seeing a lot more of an impact. I know myself today, been a little bit more stuffy with the allergies. So keep that in mind if you're spending a lot of time, especially outdoors as we get into this afternoon. That's going to be absolutely gorgeous here today. So I do want to check one more thing for you guys before we start getting into your questions, and that's going to be those storm chances today. Remember I was telling you we do have that isolated chance for some storms, and what we can do here is we're going to look at our visible satellite. Let's see what we're kind of seeing in terms of development of these little lighter clouds. We're not looking for that heavy cloud cover. That's going to limit storm development. But notice kind of out near Clinton right now, and this is kind of similar timing to what we could be looking at. Not moving a whole lot, but as it's moving into an area where there's a lot more clearing, a lot more storm energy here, making its way further to the south with these little lighter cumulus clouds rather than these stratus clouds. We're seeing these are more like cumulus clouds. As that moves south, yeah, maybe you could get a little bit of some activity. We do have some decent moisture still in the air there. Let's look even further up to the north. You can kind of see portions near Dubuque. That's not a whole lot, right? Those are those lighter clouds. You can tell they're a little bit more feathery. It's more the ones further to the south that we'll be watching here. And again, nothing severe or anything like that, but just maybe for a quick little shower as we get through the rest of the day. It's going to be this development. Let me draw a circle around this for you. Right around Clinton. Those are those cumulus clouds where we could see, yeah, maybe the potential for them start to tower, right? You know how we talk about that sometimes as the clouds build up, take in more moisture, get that cold pool of water in it. That's where we could be seeing some of that shower development later. So keep an eye on that, yeah, especially here in the metro, because this is about what our house model was telling us too as well when it comes to the data that we're looking at. So that'll be something to watch here as we get towards right around 11, 12 o'clock. But beyond that, it's going to be all quiet skies ahead. Our next chance for rainfall maybe late on Friday night, but really not even until late in the extended forecast. Let's get to your guys' questions, because I know we got a whole lot of questions here. That's the whole point, right, of Ask Andrew. And if you don't know how to get them to us, here's the best way. Right there, text us. You can text us at the number 309-304-0888. Once again, that number is 309-304-0888. Text messages and data rates may apply. We always like to joke. But yeah, seriously, if you do want to text us those questions, send them in. Our digital team, our wonderful digital director, Alec, will get them over to us, and we'll make sure to try and get that question answered for you either today, or if we don't get time to it today, we'll definitely get onto it next week, or Andrew will put it in the bank. And next time he needs a question for Ask Andrew, you might be the one that he does live on this show. So let's get to some of these questions right now. Jason in Davenport says, NWS says fall feels like fall-like feel is coming in the next week. Lows in the upper 50s. What do you think about that? So let me pull up the 8-day tracker here, and you can see the overnight lows. What I'm actually going to have to do is use my little forecast paper I keep in my notebook. Let's take this full real quick while I put up that 8-day tracker and talk about it. I'm going to go get my forecast book, and I can show you the overnight lows for the extended forecast here. So let me walk over, but you can see we're seeing the 80s over the next 4 days, and then we get the cool down. 56 is my forecast low as we get into your Sunday morning. I think the coolest day of the forecast is going to be Tuesday morning, at least the coolest morning of the forecast. That's after we're going to be seeing lows potentially even below that 72-degree mark. Some data I was looking at today on that Tuesday showed numbers maybe right around, or Monday showing data right around 70 degrees for a forecast. I didn't go with that one. I think that was a little bit of an oddball, but definitely it's something to look forward to, right, as these numbers continue to trend down. And if you're seeing a high around 70 degrees, we could be seeing that overnight low on your Tuesday morning here. If that trend continues, it's just one data point, but something we'll be watching. That number right there, let me see if I'm trying to draw on this. I don't know if it's letting me, but it's the 51 on your Tuesday. That could actually drop into the upper 40s. So that's something that's going to be pretty interesting to watch here in the days ahead. Maybe even needing a light jacket to start your morning. Again, I'm from Arizona, so 49 is cold to me. But yeah, that's going to be would be refreshing, you could say, as we get into next week. And then when we take a look at the 14-day tracker, let's pull this up. On the extended forecast, again, you don't really see, this is James's PM outlook. Let me scroll back down. Let me get you to the AM one. There she is. they're the same exact name, except one says AM and PM at the very end, so it's hard to sometimes differentiate. But once we get to that Friday, for example, where we're seeing 78 degrees, I have my overnight low at 60, and after that, overnight low is trending right around or above 60 for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So when you're looking for those morning temperatures in the 50s, your lucky numbers are going to be starting Monday morning, continuing through right about Friday morning. During the work week next week is when we could be seeing those overnight lows potentially into the 50s. Justin Gillsburg asked, the Weather Channel said dozens of people were rescued off North Carolina's coast from Hurricane Aaron's rip currents. Is this normal? Aren't there warnings not to go out? And yes, that is completely true. We are not, I guess we are, not many of our viewers obviously are going to be heading out to North Carolina in the next couple of days, but yeah. Residents of North Carolina, especially the Outer Banks, are warning not to go out there right now. I know lifeguards are getting extra training to make sure they know how to rescue people from those currents. There's been multiple rescues. We already started to see that tide rise. If you're watching GMQC at, I believe it was 8 a.m. or GMQC at 6, we were showing some of that video of right along the beach. You were seeing the houses on the stilts. That water was rising into them there. So let me see if I can find, it's going to be a little bit of a search here for you, but let me see if we can find an ocean current or a rip current graphic that I can show you guys here. I might have one in the files. Let me see. Here we are. Okay, so this is done by our friends at the Weather Company who make these graphics and help us out sometimes with it. But let's zoom in here, the high risk areas. So let me zoom in. And you can see it's pretty much talking about all up and down the coast. It might take 1 second here to reload, but let's give it 1 second. There we go. And I'll see if I can zoom around, and if not, we'll open this up and we'll zoom around a little bit here for you. There we go. Scene camera. It's the beauty of doing this on the app, isn't it? We can kind of toy around with the graphics and look around pretty much all the way on the coast from Miami up towards Jacksonville, to Charleston to Myrtle, to Beaufort to the Outer Banks, which you can see right around here. Here's that kind of peak right around the Outer Banks. Near Beaufort, Hatteras, Kill, Devil Hills, that's where we're kind of seeing that peak of it right there. And it's got that high risk, which is dangerous and potentially life-threatening conditions that we're seeing here with this. That I saw we could be potentially seeing maybe 10 to 15 foot waves making their way through off of Aaron here as well. And as we go further up the coast, you really see it doesn't end too quickly, right? All the way up to Atlantic City, New Jersey. They're still under that high risk. All the way up towards Nantucket, even near Martha's Vineyard type area, off the coast of Connecticut, we're seeing that high risk warning. The moderate risk kind of continues, and that's similar to where we're seeing the path of the hurricane, which I can pull up again here. You'll notice where we're seeing this high risk is where we're seeing the path of the hurricane. So we'll go back here, pull this out, and get me right back here. Notice as you follow the coast, right, we're still seeing it out towards Miami, up and towards portions of Connecticut. And then once we get here, let me get to a pause point, and then I can move this around for you. Add a pause point there, and then we should be able to move this up north once we get to that pause point. And if not, I'll just go back in and zoom right back out. There we go. You can see as it makes its turn there, that's the last time we're really going to be seeing the impact, kind of right along that line or that latitude, you could say, that goes down from Boston right here, down south. Right as it makes the turn there is where it's going to stop impacting the coast, pretty much. Connecticut to Boston. Then after that, once it finally turns away and starts to dissipate, that's where we're going to start to see the end of that impact along the coast. But pretty much the whole continental United States coast right now that touches the Atlantic is under that high risk. So definitely don't want to be spending too much time out there. Again, waves potentially right around the peak of North Carolina, maybe 10 to 15 feet high, and rip tides are going to be some of the strongest you could ever see. So limit those times in the oceans if you are know anyone out there, or make sure to keep them in your prayers here as well. And I've got a next question here, and it's from our wonderful friend, Billy. Always good to hear from you, Billy. How are you? Good morning. He has two questions for me. So why does wind shear always tear hurricanes and tropical systems apart? So that's actually a fantastic question. Think about wind shear, right? So let me see if we have a shear graphic in order for that hurricane to continue to spin, right, you want that spinning motion. You don't want wind shears going from the horizontal through it, because that's going to impact it and turn it tighter, right? It's not going to allow that tight circular gradient or, pardon me, circle around the eye to continue. So that's what we're seeing there. I wonder if I can find a good explainer here. Or actually, I'll draw on this. I'll add the wind speeds and I'll draw on that for you. That might be the best way to do this. Let me pull up our regional radar, and I'll go into here, add the wind speeds, and then I'll draw lines through it to explain how shear could impact it. Let me see. Add, let's go down here, wind particles right now. There's those wind particles. Okay. And now say you don't want shear across it. So let me draw the line, because you see how it's that very tight circular rotation that we're seeing there. With that tight circular rotation, say you have a wind or some shear aloft, that's going to change the steering system of it. So let me draw just an example of the jet stream line. So say you have those circular winds going like this, but then you get wind shear aloft coming out like this. You're steering westerly winds that we typically see, right? So let me change the coloring on that. When you have those steering westerly winds, and we typically see this as it kind of makes its way up towards where we see those peak winds right along the mid-latitudes, 30 to 60, you see that wind shear kind of take a little bit more of a toll. That's why it's not as impactful, say, in the Gulf. So say you have wind speeds go in the opposite direction in the upper levels from the westerlies, that's going to break down the upper level of the storm. Because remember, these towering thunderstorms that you get along the hurricane, they can climb thousands and thousands of feet, tens of thousands of feet into the atmosphere. So when you have wind shear going the other way, breaking down that towering cloud, that's going to limit the potential of the thunderstorm. So that's one way that shear can really impact those tornadoes. And again, think about our typical wind speeds, right? Or the steering winds, they come west to east. So when you get that counterclockwise rotation where it's going east to west, when those combat each other, and you get the higher steering winds further north you get, that's what typically is going to lead to this breaking down a little bit more, is that stronger wind shear aloft, especially as it continues to make its way further to the north. Also, let's see, and, oh, you're wondering about the warm core system. Warm core system plays a little bit of a role to it. Obviously, you aren't going to be getting so much in terms of vorticity. You get stronger vorticity in those cold core systems where shear actually benefits and strengthens the storm, but it's more about the steering winds aloft and kind of combating the direction and strength of the hurricane there. Let's see, anything else from you, Billy? Well, just a thank you, of course, as always, for the compliments as well from you, Billy. You're always the best, aren't you? Let's take a look at our next question, and it's Chris from Walnut, Illinois. He's wondering, can you help explain tornadoes have multiple vortices, and if they can split into separate tornadoes at once or pull together into a wedge or stronger tornado? Okay, I think we saw an example of this. Was it South Dakota or Nebraska this year? One of the two actually saw this kind of matching tornadoes, right? All you really need is the lowering of those clouds, the cold cores. If you have two little cold cores next to each other that have that divergence, that sync, it's potential to have two next to each other, and if the motion of the two, it's just a little bit more rare, right? Kind of combined together, you can get those strong hurricanes. Tornadoes. We're talking so much about the hurricanes today. You can't get those strong tornadoes. So let me see if I can close this out. I mean, it's not really common, right? We're not going to be seeing that too much. It's rare to see two tornadoes right next to each other in general. But let me see if I can find a graphic on this one here for you. It's a little bit easier to explain rather than me going like this, right? Let me look this up and see if I can find tornadoes. And this is from Chris in Walnut. Let's see, tornado trends. Let's see if I can find any explainers on tornado formation on here for you. I know we've talked about them so many times. Let's see, is this just a safety one? I think this is just a safety graphic. Okay, that is just a safety graphic. I'm trying to find this here for you. Honestly, this might be a great question for as an actual Ask Andrew segment where we can do a little bit more research on this. Because again, I can give you the basic explanation, but to give a nice graphic for you, I might put this one kind of in the back pocket for you and make sure we can get a better deep dive into that because it's actually fascinating, the study behind tornadoes and tornado genesis. As we know, it's always so cool to kind of study that, right? But I will look into that a little bit more for you to get a better, more clear explanation, really, on how those typically form. And if there's any actually history behind maybe two of them coming together. There's got to be, but I don't know exactly all the details on that, so I'd have to look up into that a little bit more. John was asking, talking about the fog this morning in Geneseo. Is fog something that can be forecasted ahead of time, or is it a little bit less predictable? So fog is definitely something we can forecast ahead of time. And it's really looking at the wind speeds and then the moisture content in the atmosphere, right? Let me see if we have an explainer on that. It always helps rather than me kind of just standing here and talking to you, isn't it? Visualization is always better. So let me see. Why fog forms? Here we go. This is perfect. This is perfect. So what happens is you need moisture, right? Calm winds and clear skies. So pretty much what happens is when you get those dew points, right? You know how we talk about the dew point making it feel really muggy? Well, when you have a dew point of 67 and a temperature of 67, you actually have completely saturated air. So when you have that saturated air, you form condensation. Think of it on your water bottle, right? When it's really hot outside, or you have that cold water bottle and you bring it out, the dew point is, especially here in the summer, actually higher than the temperature of the water bottle. That's why you get the condensation or evaporation outside your water bottle. And that's kind of similar to what we see here with fog. So let me go further into this explainer for you. And yeah, this is more, I guess, traffic explainer. But the difference is right here. When does it dissipate? Well, dissipate when temperature rises above the dew point temperature. Because this morning we saw temperature 67, the dew point at 67. That's what allowed all that fog to form here. Right now that we're seeing temperatures rise, which typically we obviously see with more sunshine, that's going to create a bigger difference from, say, the temperature where it was 67, 67, both the dew point and the temperature, to when, say, the temperature is 85 and the dew point 65. You're not going to be having that difference because they're not the same exact thing. You get more saturation in the morning, too. That's typically why we see fog in the overnight hours, because temperatures drop, but dew points actually rise as we get to overnight hours. That's kind of where you get that little bit of a peak there when it comes to fog formation, and that's kind of what we saw here this morning. And I do have another graphic for you. It's not exactly perfect or designed for fog, you could say, but it's our future track for visibility. So I can pull that one out. Let me look this one up for you. Visibility. Boop. Let's see, did I spell that wrong? I might have spelled it wrong. No, okay, here it is. So this is our future track visibility. Now, if we look at it, this is set for, let's see, let's give it 1 second here. Thursday. I'm not going to be seeing a whole lot because I think that's beyond where our data will go. Let's double check that. Oh, there it is. So if you look, we can click it, and it's not really going to show a lot because the time is set to 6 a.m., 6 a.m. But if we change it from today at 6 a.m. to tomorrow at 6 a.m., let's see if we can see any of that fog forming here. I'm going to have to give the data 1 second. Let me check this contour. There it is. So you notice how at 6 a.m. this morning on GMQC, we were talking about the low visibility out in Princeton and out near Peru, maybe Prophetstown and out near Galesburg. This is actually a model that can track that. So it pretty much forecasts visibility, fog development, and all of that. So that's definitely something we can look at too. It only goes out about 2 days, but we do look at that when it comes to fog development. And that's honestly all the time we got here. I mean, I really appreciate all you guys tuning in here and asking all those questions. You can always rewatch it if you missed part of it on the WQAD 8+ app. So thank you again for tuning in, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back here next week at 9 a.m.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8+ app everywhere you stream.